It is my pleasure to introduce our first panel, and I'm excited to welcome Martin Vargas-Vega from Habu, who will moderate the Trailblazers and Tech panel discussion today. Martin is a dear friend of mine. He's a dancer. He's already bobbing and dancing. He's also one of our first members of the Digital Nest. So I want to say he was member number 12 or 13, one of those, which is pretty impressive considering we have over 3,000 members of Digital Nest. So that's just a reminder, if you're not a member of Digital Nest, sign up now. Sign up today. You could go to digitalnest.org to do that. But let's kick it off with Martin, Digital Nest member number 12. Take it away.
Thank you, Jacob. Bueno, yes, member number 12. Huge, I guess I'm a believer of the Nest from the beginning. I was here when there was nothing really to show for. It was just an idea. And it's absolutely wild to be here with all of you and to share this virtual stage. For the entire week leading up to this moment, I've been so jittery and just like, I'm still bringing the energy. You should be able to feel me through this video. Like you should feel that I'm next to you. So I'm really excited to bring these amazing individuals. I will introduce them right now. They'll have a little time to tell their story. And then, but I'm just excited to be here. So like Jacob said, my name is Martin Vargas-Vega. I was born in Monterey, California. I'm a software engineer for Habu. I think I'm the oldest engineer there. It's tenure. And I was like engineer number three or four. And I'm a first generation. I'm a migrant student. I'm the son to Maria Luisa Vargas and to Tomas Pineda Vargas. They came from Mexico here looking for a better life, and they've helped me get to that place. And I'm just excited to bring you these individuals. When the Nest started, there was this idea that I had whenever I went to the Nest. I was like, I really wanted these amazing individuals to come through the door and to be like, hey, you know what, Martin, I want to help you get a job, or I want to help you get to that next stage. And fast forward 7 years or whatever it is now, I don't know how old the Nest is now. Now we get to do that. We get to do that to all of you. And these are all the individuals that I wish I could have seen growing up, that I could have seen how they could have expanded my realm of possibilities, how my dreams are realities. And so I'm just so excited for all of you to meet Erika, Sarah, and Alex. I need to do a little shout out to people. So shout out to the Nest for inviting me back. Thank you for having me, Jacob and Sandy. I mean, Amber. I know Amber's not here, but Amber has been an advocate for Nest Flight from the beginning. And I just, I love her and I thank her for being just an advocate to us and the Nest and Nest Flight. So thank you. Next, shout out to Habu. Just like I'm a huge fan of stories, and from stories I learn from experiences, and those experiences affect my dreams. I want to say a huge thank you to Habu for sponsoring this conference. If just a shout out for Habu, what we do is we work across distributed data platforms and create clean rooms. We're hiring, so if you're looking for a new position, check out our careers page. Little plug. If you don't find something that resonates with you in our career page, we're always updating it. So please go check that out. One of the things that I do want to highlight about Habu is one of our core values, which is empathy. So we as a company pay it forward. Our values map to wider world causes outside of Habu. So we share our successes and privileges and give back to our community through a program called Habu Helps. With that, I want to give a huge shout out to the executive team at Habu. So Jess Tansey, Matt Kilmartin, Mike Moreau, Ru Gupta, and Matt Karasik, just for helping champion this initiative and allowing me to be me and allowing me to do this. So, because I want you to know most companies don't allow you to be who you want to be. And, at Habu, that's what we do. Also, huge shout out to the engineering and product team. Another story that I want to share with you. When you have support, when people start moving meetings for you. We have an engineering demo today and they're like, you know what, we're going to move that. Martin, we're all going to be there. We're going to show up. And I was like, oh, y'all don't have to do that. Like, no, because if you all know this at a startup, every day is important. When you're an entrepreneur, every meeting is important. Every decision is important. But when your team and your company says, you know what, you are important for us, we will show up for you. We will show out for you. Oh, that's different. So I hope you all can take some of that away and share that with your own company and say, hey, they're doing this. Why aren't we? Okay. Sale. So shout out Habu team. And lastly, a thank you to our panelists. These individuals are super, super busy. And a funny story that I want to share is, even though they're so busy in their lives and, changing literally thousands of people's lives, before I even could finish the question of saying, do you want to be part of this panel? They said yes. And then after I was like, wait, don't you want to know what it is? And they're like, oh, sure, that'd be nice to know. But they are absolutely amazing. One of them just came off a demo just so they can be here and moving things around. Another one is looking for opportunities and decided to be here. And another one is running a multi-six-figure business and said, you know what, this is the place that I want to be. And we're here showing up for you and showing up for everyone. So thank you to all of you. And so let's go. Cool. So the way this is going to work is, this is a color. Yes. Mm-hmm. Good job. Oh, Sandy, we're in sync right now. I was about to say that. The way this panel is going to work, we do have a list of questions that we thought about, but if you all have any questions that you want to answer, or if something resonates with you, please drop it in the chat. I will be looking at that. I will also be looking at my phone. So if anything, you feel it, react. At the end, we're going to have 15 minutes for a Q&A, and we're going to learn about these amazing individual story. So, okay. And if you don't know what this panel is about, a quick little summary is, it's called Trailblazers in Tech. And what it is from knowing you want a career in the tech industry, but being unsure of how to get there, to fulfilling your career in the tech industry and moving on to other opportunities. This panel will offer you insight into how 4 professionals navigated their careers in the tech industry. That's a long way of saying you're either about to start this journey and you don't know how, you're in this journey and you want to make an impact, or you realize that you put your name after Nestle. Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm like reading. See, that's how I'm active. I'm reading the chat. I need to ignore it. And then also to finding purpose in what you do, finding purpose in your life, and finding a balance between all of that. So yeah, I'm excited to introduce everyone. The way this is going to go right now, at the beginning, each person will have a couple minutes to share their story. I'm going to read their bio, and then after they read their bio, they will introduce themselves however they would like to. And after that, we're going to keep going. So because of who I see on my screen right now, I see Erika first. So Erika, I'm going to read your bio, and then and you feel free to introduce yourself. Hold on. Okay, there we go. So Erika Cruz is a coach, speaker, and founder of Purpose Driven Latina. She helps her community align with their purpose and find fulfillment. After 8 years in the tech industry, Erika turned her side hustle into her main hustle, all thanks to TikTok and other platforms. As a proud daughter of Mexican immigrants, Erika is aware of the lack of available resources to her growing up. For this reason, she's on a mission to connect others with the tools and resources to be the best they can be. Her content on TikTok and other platforms focus on bringing people back to themselves to align with their deeper purpose, gain confidence, and dream big. Erika, thank you so much for being here, and welcome.
Thanks for having me. Okay, this is the time when I introduce myself, right?
Yeah.
Just give a little of my story. All right,
Yeah.
I'll keep it short because I want to make sure that we get to the questions. But thank you, Martin. Thank you for the invitation. And hi, everyone. I am very excited to be here. I definitely wish that I would have had this when I was just starting off in my career. I really felt like I didn't even know what I was doing. So if you feel that way right now, don't worry, everyone feels that way. So I'm from the Bay Area. I went to Berkeley, and when I graduated from Berkeley, I ended up landing a job at Oracle, a really big tech company. I didn't even know what Oracle did. And I remember just showing up, and I was like the only Latina, the only curly haired person, the only loud individual. And I just felt very much out of place. But I felt like there was something to learn there, and I stayed there for a year and a half or so. And then I was like, okay, I really need to feel like I'm making an impact. And this is such a big company. I don't feel like I'm doing that. So from there, I went to a few different startups. And when I worked at these startups, I did everything from sales to partnerships to marketing to product back to marketing. So I really had my foot in kind of everything. And when the pandemic hit and we were all kind of stuck inside, I was like, okay, I think this chapter of my life is ready to come to a close. And I really want to work directly with my community. Even though when I was in tech, I was very involved in diversity and inclusion, but I felt like I really wanted to do something on my own. So I started to create content. I was already creating content, but I started to be more consistent with it. And my TikTok account went from no followers to 12,000 followers, 12,000 to 25,000, 25,000 to 40,000 followers. And I was like, okay, people obviously want what I'm talking about. There's demand here. I should probably do something with this. So I started a coaching business. I didn't even know what coaching was until I joined a group coaching program where I was a student. I was literally like building the bridge as I crossed it. But now I can tell you that if it wasn't for that time that I spent in tech, especially in startups where I was able to work in different departments, there's no way that I'd be running a successful business right now. And now I work for myself. Eventually, I'd love to have my own tech company. Tech is very near and dear to my heart. And I'm currently in Mexico working from my computer and talking to all of you. So I absolutely love the way that where my career has led me. And I think a lot of times we just want to know where we're going. And Steve Jobs has a really good quote where like, we can't connect the dots looking forward. We can only connect the dots looking back. Because a couple of years ago, I felt like I didn't even know what I was doing with my life. And now I'm like, oh, that all served a purpose. So thank you again, Martin, for having me. And I'm really excited about this panel.
Thank you, Erika. Awesome. You're absolutely amazing. All right. The next person that I see on this panel or to my little squares is Alex Chavez. Alex, I'll read your bio and feel free to introduce yourself however you'd like. So Alex Chavez is a software engineer from Watsonville, California. He started his tech journey working at a local startup in Santa Cruz called Bowie Labs that was acquired by Residio Technologies in 2019. At Residio, Alex worked as a software engineer for their smart home water products. He currently works at BoomJam, a superset company, an all-in-one music platform that helps artists collaborate on music in San Francisco, California. Alex holds a bachelor's degree in computer engineering from San Jose State University. Alex, welcome. Feel free to introduce yourself to the next slide.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Martin, for having us. So I'm Alex Chavez, grew up in Watsonville. So it's nice to see a lot of familiar faces here. I grew up in Watsonville, and after that, I kind of just went to Cabrillo College, started off my journey there. And then while I was at Cabrillo, I actually a board member of Digital Nest named Hillary Bryant. She was starting a company called Bowie Labs. So I actually came on as an intern pretty early on, I think in like 2017. And just was working through college, spent some time at that startup. And then it was kind of like an interesting period because I was still going to school, but I was already like working in tech. And then something kind of crazy just happened in 2019. That startup actually got acquired. And I was the 5th employee there, had shares. And it was like, I was 23 at the time and I had no clue what was going on. They were using all these terms like during the acquisition. And it was just like a super interesting period and experience there because as like a 23-year-old, I don't know how many 23-year-olds go through like tech acquisitions. So it was really cool to experience that. And in 2019, when we got acquired, that company was actually in Austin, Texas. So there was a lot of back and forth in going to Austin. And at the time, I actually didn't have my degree yet. So I was still finishing up my computer engineering degree at San Jose State. And it was pretty funny because I had to go to class and I'd ask permission from my teachers that I'd miss like a week or two of school because I'd have to go to Austin for work. They were like, "What do you do?" And I was like, "Well, I'm a software engineer." And they just thought it was like super cool. Also that I was getting to experience that, like being a full-time software engineer while I was still getting my degree. I worked for that company for around a year. It was just this huge company with thousands of employees across the world. After that, I was looking for a new position and Martin introduced me to Superset. And now I'm a software engineer for BoomJam, which is a music platform. It's a great place, different field than I was before, like from smart home to like music, but something that's still very exciting. So it's a little bit about me.
Awesome. Thank you, Alex. Alex is absolutely amazing. I think I'm going to say amazing multiple times because everyone on the panel is just that. So thank you, Alex. Thank you for being here. Now on to our last, but not least, Sarah Greywood. So Sarah Greywood is a software engineer from Watsonville, California, currently living in San Jose. She has been in a role with Flickr since 2021. Besides her passions for engineering and all things code, Sarah also has a passion for plants and has over 100 cacti and succulents throughout her home. The other thing that she hasn't mentioned is that she also dances salsa, specifically salsa rueda. And then I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hey, y'all. I'm Sarah. I'm proud Boricua. I'm originally from Watsonville, California. Growing up, I honestly didn't think I would be able to go to college. I didn't think I was going to do much at all with my life. All of that changed with a really amazing mentor. Shout out to Ms. Brazil de Castro at Watsonville High. That's my counselor, and she was there for about 20 years. So I hope some of the people on the call got to experience Ms. Brazil de Castro as well. Once I figured out that I really wanted to be in academia, I did go through the traditional path into academia, but ended up not having academia love me as much as I loved it. I switched over to working in teaching. I had taught all the way through college. I had taught in high school actually as well, through the arts program at Watsonville High. Went into teaching, was there for about 10 years, got extremely burnt out, and went into tech. So I fell in love with coding during the pandemic. During shelter in place, I began to get interested in kind of technologies that we were using. So like Zoom, we were using Seesaw, we were using all these different technologies to connect with our kids. And I started really getting interested in like, how does the data go from our kids to us? How do they turn in work? And becoming less and less interested in kind of the practice and pedagogy of my teaching. I knew this was when it was time to start pursuing engineering in earnest. And I did this by consulting the one and only person I knew in tech, and that was Martin Vargas-Vega. So shout out to Martin. He mentored me and put me onto opportunities to learn, including a class at Stanford called Code in Place, which is where I fell even more deeply in love with code. I then pursued a boot camp, kind of a mini boot camp called She Codes. Basics. And then I went for it and applied to a full-on boot camp, 6-month intensive boot camp called Tectonica. Amazingly, somehow I got into that boot camp with only 3 months of experience in coding, and was able to secure an internship at the end of that program. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm currently working at Flickr as a software engineering on the engineering team. And I live in San Jose with my husband, our 2 cats, and as you heard earlier, over 100 cacti and succulents. And yeah, that's where I'm at.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sarah. Awesome. So hopefully you all can, learn something a little bit from the panelists. Whenever I would go to these events, to any tech conference, there was no one that I could really relate to. And whenever I did, the fallback that I always had is if I had one thing that I connect with them, I'm like, oh, I can do it. I can do what they're doing. So sometimes like someone would say I like tacos. I'm like, oh, that's it. It's done. I'm going to be an engineer. This person likes tacos. I like tacos. It's just going to happen. So again, thank you all for being here. And now let's go into the questions part because I see that we're running out of time. The reason, and a little caveat, 2 things I'd want to share. One, we are all community college graduates and transfers. Well, almost all of us are transfers, except me, because I chose tech after that. But we all went to community college. So what's up, everyone? The reason why I share that is because I know there's sometimes a negative stigma of going to community college, but I can speak probably for everyone on this panel that community college is the one place where we learn to love ourselves. We learn how to learn, and it probably made the biggest impact in how we show up in not only our professional life, but our personal life. So if you all have any questions that can resonate with that, feel free on LinkedIn, be like, hey, Martin, I know you went to community college, or hey, Erika, how was that for you? So just, on the untraditional path for, then this new wave. Cool. So now let's jump into the questions. So for each individual, they all are trailblazers in their own way. They have all created a path that now I'm so A, honored to know them, and B, know that they're creating this new opportunity for the next individuals that are coming, the next 10, 50 entrepreneurs, engineers, company developers. And that's kind of who they are. And that's how they show up in the world. And we're going to learn a little bit about their story. But before that, let's learn a little bit about them. This is the question for all of you. Growing up, what did you see yourself doing? And do you think your younger self could imagine what you're doing today? And this could, however you all want to do this.
I can go. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
So when I was younger, I wanted to run my own business and be an actress. And when I was probably around 10 or probably a little younger, and I would put up these lemonade stands, and my dad was not about it. He was like, I've worked so hard for you to go and ask strangers for money. And in his eyes, it wasn't entrepreneurship. In his eyes, I was like asking for money. And one day he was off at work, and I was like, okay, well, I'll like clean up before he gets home at 6. So I set up my lemonade stand, and I like went to go even knock on doors to try to deliver my lemonade to make sure that I made more sales. Like I was a little entrepreneur. I didn't even know. And my dad got home early, and he found my lemonade stand, and I was like punished for it and grounded for, I don't even remember like how long. And like I share this story, like it's a little sad, but I think a lot of us, like ever since we're young, we kind of start to show interest. Like we may not know exactly where it's going to lead, but the fact that I was like punished for it, it almost made me think that entrepreneurship was bad and it wasn't for me, and that I shouldn't be doing it, and that I should choose like the quote unquote safe route. So I think I always knew I wanted to do this, but I didn't fully believe that I could for a very long time. And it wasn't until the pandemic where I kind of circled back to like, what did I enjoy doing when I was younger? And I'm not an actress, but now I have like brand deals with QuickBooks where I'm creating content for them. So like I'm like my own little agency over here. So it's crazy how like things kind of can come full circle. And then as I never saw myself in tech, but now that I've been in tech, I'm like, oh, there's no way I'm not going to go like start my own tech company, like as my business keeps growing.
Cool. And that's actually, Erika, what in college, what did you major? Just for those that are.
Yeah. So another full circle moment, I majored in media studies and ethnic studies. Those were the two things I studied. And I always was into media, specifically like documentary filmmaking and how we can impact people's lives in a positive way, which is exactly what I'm doing on social media. I'm creating content to help people align with their purpose, build courage, all of that. But when I went into tech, I was like, why did I even study that? You know, and I think especially when you're in the path of figuring out what it is that you want to pick for your major, like one, your prefrontal cortex isn't even fully developed until you're 25. So you're almost like asked to pick something before your brain is fully developed and you don't even know who you are yet. So don't stress out about picking a major. Pick what you're interested in, because college is hard, right? College is super hard. So you might as well enjoy the journey. And even though I was a media studies major, my first job out of college was tech. So you don't have to be an engineer. Remember that technology is a business. Like technology needs sales, they need marketing, they need chefs, right? How many chefs don't work at like Google and LinkedIn and all of that? Like there's multiple ways of getting into tech. Thank you. Awesome. I'm done talking. I feel like I should let you know when I'm done.
No, you're good. All right. Sarah and Alex, what did y'all want to be when you were all youngins?
Yeah, honestly, I had a really hard time growing up, and I didn't want to be anything because I didn't believe that I was really going to make it out for a long time. It wasn't until I was like 17 that I was like, oh, I want to be something. Like, I think I can actually exist for a long time and be here. So it took a long time for me to kind of actually want to be something. And the first thing that I wanted to be was a cardiologist when I was 17. And I was like, like my dad is in nursing. Like I can do something in the medical field. I'll take it up a notch and I'll be a doctor, right? And then I went to inorganic chem at Cabrillo College, and my dreams were dashed. Because I was not very good at math at the time, or I had been told for a very long time that I wasn't good at math, and I had internalized that. So it wasn't until I met some mentors at Cabrillo College, actually, that I started being interested in sociology. And that was what ended up being my career path for a long time, was sociology and feminist studies and politics. But that's completely different than what I'm doing now. So like you can change at any point. Like at no point did I ever have any training in teaching, and yet I taught for 10 years. At no point do I have any training in tech. I'm in tech, so it really doesn't matter what you do now. You can change at any point.
Hey, and you're doing it now, doing it big. Thank you, Sarah. Alex, what about you?
Yeah, so for me, I think I was like 12, kind of always just wanted to be an engineer. So it was just something that, from an early age, I was like, I want to do engineering. I really enjoy like cooking and baking. So I also wanted to be like a chef. So when it was time to do that, I remember my two decisions were, all right, so I got to be a engineer or a chef. And then I kind of planned things out. I was like, I'll go be an engineer, and then I can still cook at home and stuff like that. And then once I retire from an engineer, I can open up my own restaurant. So I kind of planned it out like that. And yeah, I mean, I'm happy with how things are going. So I look back at, I'm like, oh, wow, like sometimes I'll be writing code and I'm like, I feel like I'd have to worry about like burning like a cake or something versus like trying to figure out how certain code works. But I mean, I like the lifestyle. So I'm happy with the decision of engineering and saving like the chef and like the restaurant for later.
Oh, okay. We're all invited, right?
Yes.
Grand opening. Okay. Good question. So I see your question. I will add that to our Q&A, but I see it. I see how fast time is going, so I will make time go a little bit faster. So this first question is going to go to you, Sarah. Then the next one's going to go to Erika. So for most people, a little bit about your story, right? Is you were teaching in the pandemic and you found out somewhere in there that wasn't the career that you thought was that you would take forever. You found that you weren't happy, and for individuals that might be going through the same thing, what would you recommend to them if they're thinking about making that shift from a non-technical area or work to a technical area? And if you could change something along the way, what would that be?
Yeah, I would say do it. If you're not happy, it's not worth it. Don't keep going in something that makes you happy and stresses you out. Because I kept going for a long time. I knew that I wanted to get out of teaching in some way for about 2 years before I actually made the switch. I just didn't know where I wanted to go. So I was like, I'm going to stay here where it's safe. But I would recommend, start exploring, start thinking about like, what do you do when you're not doing what you're doing for money, right? And think about how you can monetize that. Think about how that can become something that you are actually doing full time that's actually fulfilling you, right? But on the other side of that too, also realize that what you do for work doesn't necessarily have to fulfill you in a deep way, because I do love teaching, right? And I've gotten that from outside of my career without having to actually be a teacher, right? So I'm here mentoring, I'm here doing this conference. I work with people all the time. And I don't need to do that as a career in order to be fulfilled. So I think take both of those in hand. Think about like, what do you do and how can that either be monetized or how can that be something that you do on the side?
Yes. I was going like this entire time. I was like, yes. Thank you, Sarah. Just because I know there's so many of individuals, right, that are either at the beginning of their career, in the middle of their career, or maybe they've been at a place for a long time, and hearing your story and saying, hey, you know what? I feel that. I'm scared to make that move because I thought I'm ungrateful, right? I have a job that gives me insurance. I have a job that gives me like this style of living, but feeling unfulfilled. And sometimes you just have to know that someone's been through that and is doing that and is thriving in that, because it's also scary, right? To making that jump, which you can have led us greatly to Erika. So Erika, knowing your story, and also shout out, Erika has a podcast. It's absolutely amazing. Y'all should check it out. If you want to know more about her story and how it all happened, please check it out. So Erika, the question for you is, knowing how when you finally decided to you recognize, hey, the fulfillment that I'm getting is not from my job, to saying, how did it feel? How did it feel going to your mom and saying, hey, mom, like, I'm going to make this jump. I'm going to bet on myself. Obviously, with, the culture that we're in as underrepresented individuals, taking that kind of jump into, betting on yourself is scary, right? And then also when the people that support you the most are saying, hey, are you sure that's what you want to do? So what kind of tips or guidance can you give to individuals, especially like if you and Sarah knew each other, she'd be like, hey, you did this. How did that feel? And how did you get through it? And also with all the individuals that you coach through your program.
Yeah, so I did both together for a while where I was still at my tech job and then I started my coaching business. So I like to say that my tech job was the first investor in my business. And when you think about your job in that way, it detaches like the need to feel fulfilled from it because you know that there's a bigger purpose and a bigger mission. So what happens a lot of times is like my clients know they don't want to be at their job anymore and they're like, I just got to go. And I'm like, please do not stress yourself out like that. So I don't want to make it seem like one day I was just like, I quit and I was out of there. That did not happen. It was like slowly leading to me wanting to leave. And then once I started this side hustle, I was like, okay, I think I'm ready to make the jump. But when I told my mom, I was like, Mom, I'm going to focus on my coaching business and I'm going to leave my job. And she was like, and I'll translate right now. She was like, ¿Cómo vas a dejar el trabajo para ir a hacer TikToks? She was like, how are you going to go like leave your job to go make TikTok videos? Like she didn't even know how to say TikTok. And at the time, everyone thought I was crazy because it was only kids on TikTok at the time. But, and she was right. Like it was a little crazy. We were in the middle of a pandemic. I had a tech job that allowed me to work from home. It paid me over 6 figures. It allowed me to travel the world before the world had shut down. I had health benefits. It was, they were giving me more and more opportunities. And it seemed crazy from the outside looking in. But I think when we can learn to really trust ourselves and trust our own intuition, that's where we end up going where our purpose is. So here's what I've learned along the way. I've learned that we can't expect other people to understand where we're going and what our dreams are unless they have been there. So like my mom literally couldn't comprehend what I was trying to do because it was a foreign concept. It was even a foreign concept to people in my generation, right? Like, what do you mean you're going to go make money off of TikTok? What do you mean you're going to coach people on Zoom? What does this mean? Like, how are you coaching people? Who are you to coach people? Are you even certified? Like, and then, oh, don't even talk to me about the imposter syndrome. I know we're going to get into that. So I won't even, but that's like the number one thing I coach on, imposter syndrome. So I want you to think of like your vision, like your prescription glasses, right? So let's see. I see that Jacob in his photo has prescription glasses. If Jacob and I switched glasses, do you think we'd be able to see? No, not at all. Because like your prescription is for you, his prescription is for him, my prescription is for me. And this is how our vision is, right? So like only we can see through it. And we can't, it's almost unfair to expect other people to get this vision unless they're already there living it. So this is also why community is so important. So like being surrounded by people who get what you're trying to do. And we sometimes get really butthurt with like, oh, damn, the people closest to me don't support me. It's not that they don't support you. It's that they literally don't even know how to support us because they don't understand. So I think when I understood that, it was so much easier to leave my job. And what I learned was like, no, people can't see my vision, but it's my job to go make my vision a reality. And now people see it. Right? Like now my mom will I was featured on the New York Times, super random, because I left my job during the pandemic because of the Great Resignation. So then what's my mom doing? She's taking them to like all of her clients, like, look at my daughter. Like she doesn't even know what it means to be on the New York Times. She didn't even know what the New York Times was, but she knew it was a big deal. So now she's like showing it off to all these people. And this is what happens. But like I had to have my own back before I expected my mom to be supportive. And like, you know, usually the people around us, they literally just want what's best for us and they want to keep us safe. It's not that they don't want to support us. That was such a long response. Did that answer your question, Martin?
It absolutely does. It absolutely does. Because same like you and Sarah, there are individuals that are, you know, that are either about to start their career and they're absolutely terrified, not knowing that what they're going to commit to and what they want to do is something that, you know, that it'll work out, right? And if you don't know that, taking that first step is absolutely horrifying. But if you have individuals like yourself and Alex and Sada to say, hey, I can talk to them about their first step. I can talk to them about how scared they were or the opposite, or how confident they were. How did they know? You know, how did they know how it felt? How did they know when it was real? And if they feel those things, you know, if I was looking at both of you and Alex, I'd be like, oh, I know it. This is how it's supposed to feel. But if you don't have those individuals in your life, you know, that have done it or that can mentor you or that you can see as an idol, it's just terrifying, which I know for all of you, that's how it was. But now you all, you know, are inspiring the next wave of talent. Sale. Bueno, now with Alex, this all blends perfectly together. So now for all of you here, just to give you all a context of where we're taking you, we've started at the beginning of what that first step looks like, the things and feelings you might feel to the moment you want to make a change and, you know, some of the things and challenges you'll face and how to get around them or how to work through with them. Alex, for you, you have a very unique path in the sense of you were able to go to a 4-year college and to get a CS degree, but you also chose an untraditional path of going, or maybe not untraditional, but a traditional path of working with startups. Can you talk to us about how, what was in your decision making to say, hey, I could work for the Googles of the world, I could work for the Facebooks of the world, but you decided to say, you know what, I want to go the entrepreneurship route, right? Everything from, I'm just going to gas Alex up right now. Everything from being employee number one to the point where you had to sign some paper in order to be a company, building a team, right? So what has brought you to that space, and why would you, recommend for someone to, explore those routes, that there isn't just one way to be an engineer, right? I think through school, you're taught you work for these really big tech companies. That's the way you should do it, but not knowing the opposite side of, wow, you can really make an impact in the startup life.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think also going to San Jose State was an interesting thing, because like a lot of the people I went to school with, like they were all like, when we were about to graduate, they were all saying, oh, like I just got this like offer from Microsoft. I got this offer from like Google. So they were getting offers from like really big tech companies, and I was working at a startup. So there was always that thing about me when I was working at that startup that I was like, man, I wonder what it feels like to work at a huge company. Like they were talking about all these perks, and like, it just felt good to say like, oh, I work for Google and stuff like that. I was like, that's probably cool. But what I noticed, I feel like just with the experience, I got to experience both worlds, because our startup was really small. It was like 10 people. And then once we got acquired, the company that acquired us was like a Fortune 100 company that had split into two. So it was like a really huge company and we were like, they had offices everywhere in the world. And once I started working for that company, I was like, okay, now I'm working for like a big company. And I truly hated it. Like it was 1 year of, I didn't feel like I was, making an impact. And then I went back to a startup, which I'm currently at that startup now. And I feel like I make an impact every day, and things just move a lot quicker. So it's definitely a different pace. And I feel like at the end of the day, I just want to be somewhere where I can make an impact. And that's what I feel like I'm doing now. And then versus where I was at that big company, it was like, nobody really knew who I was. Like there was thousands of employees, and, if I missed a week, they probably wouldn't have noticed. And versus now where, everybody knows you, it's a smaller team, like you get to collaborate more. The culture is much better. So I think just experiencing it kind of took that feeling from me, that I was like, I wonder what it feels like, because I did it. And then I was like, yeah, I kind of don't like it. So startup. So I think just experience and, testing it out. It's, startups aren't for everybody. Big companies aren't for everybody. You just got to figure out what you like and what you don't. And I think just kind of experiencing both of them kind of makes you make better decisions.
Yes. No, I absolutely resonate with that. I was in the same way as you. I thought I wanted to work for the Googles of the world or the Facebooks of the world, and not really realizing, now going through the startup life, that I love the startup life. I love that you can create culture there. I love that you're doing something collectively with amazing individuals. I always thought, at being in this space, right, people would salivate over, wow, the innovation and technology and stuff like that, but not really realizing that the real secret sauce to everything is the people that you work with, how you interact with individuals, if they show up for you or they don't. And you don't really know that unless you're in those seats and seeing those things. Based on your experience, Alex, what would you recommend for someone that's starting their first tech like job, their first year, and they're like, they're answering this question, or they're asking themselves this question: I want to make an impact on my team. What would you recommend for them? And also, if they're like, hey, I realize that I want to find a mentor, how does that look like? I know you're mentoring someone right now, and this person just wants to make an impact. So what are kind of the things that you can recommend someone?
Yeah, I think one thing I just kind of always done was I've kind of always tried to like see how many things I could do. So like somebody's saying, oh, I need you to fix this, I'd be like, oh, I can do that. So I'd volunteer myself to do like a ton of things. And I think that just kind of helped me. Like people are like, oh, so we could probably let Alex do this. And I've just started like learning things. Like even if I didn't know them, like I'd volunteer myself and I'd make sure I was getting that experience, because I think in like the first 6 months, you kind of just, it's kind of like a weird period. Like you're learning a ton of things, like especially with a new company, like, and especially like on the engineering side, you're learning like new languages and like kind of, you know, the tech stack and all that stuff. So I think I just was really more focused on like trying to understand how things work. And then, you know, I think having great mentors, like you said, like at BoomJam, I had a great mentor, who's our head of technology, Max. And he would always kind of just push me like from code quality perspective to like thinking about things like in a different way. And, you know, I've noticed so much like improvement to the point where like now he's assigned me like people that I should mentor. So we brought on like junior engineers and I get to mentor them. And it feels good because I feel like it's kind of comes full circle. Like I've had mentors in the past where I'm working with them and then, you know, I'm asking them questions and sometimes I was scared. I was like, man, I kind of don't want them to think that like, oh, he doesn't like know this, like, why do we hire him, all this stuff. And I kind of, as a mentor, I really make that point. Like when I talk to the people I mentor that, you know, any question you probably have, I probably asked it before. So like, don't be afraid to ask it. And at the end of the day, I want to help them reach a point where they're like autonomous and I'm not even helping them at that point because they just picked up on like all the stuff that we've been trying to cover and helping them grow as an engineer. So I think, you know, just being willing to learn new things, that also sets you apart. When I first started at BoomJam, most of our team was overseas. And I had the tech stack that they were using, I had no clue what, I'd never used it before. So I remember staying up like till 4 a.m. because they were overseas. I'd have conversations with them. They'd tell me like, you know, how things worked. And then I'd go pick it up on myself. Like, so it was pretty heavy at first, but, you know, I really made that effort to learn what we were using so that I could, you know, be pretty successful at it.
Awesome. Thank you, Alex. So I know that we're almost at time, but so this question is for all of you. Alex, you took us to a great path of now networking. Right now, let's, you know, you've progressed in life or in your decision of what you want to do. You know, you want to do the thing. You know, you want to be an entrepreneur. You know, you want to be an engineer. You want to go into tech or whatever it is, marketing. Now, this is for anyone that wants to take it. It's what advice would you give for individuals when they're starting their network journey? And also, how do you build purposeful relationships? Because it's very, you know, one of the things that happens, I'm assuming to all of you, is you'll get hundreds of messages saying, hey, Erika, I saw da 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 da, or those, and it's a generic message that they've sent to hundreds of people. Or they'll say, you know, hola Sara, like I see that you did tech, how can I do it? Right? Without adding too much content and stuff like that. What advice could you give to individuals on, you know, building their first connection? Because, you know, making friends is difficult and also trying to make professional relationships even harder. What would you, you know, what advice would you all give?
I think something that works for me is that like, I think about the other person and how I would want someone to speak to me, or how I would receive a message like that. Right. So on the one hand, that like it makes them a lot less scary because I know that I get scared when I try to do cold LinkedIn's. I get like, oh God, like they don't want to hear from me. Why would they want to hear from me? Like, who am I? Right. But then I think about like if I got that message and I'm like, you know, I'm open to people. Like I always want to hear from people. Why wouldn't they want to hear from me? So kind of turning it around is a really positive thing. I also think like you have to realize that like in some way the relationship can be transactional, right? Like that can be part of what is happening in that relationship, and that's okay. Like we all recognize that we all have to get our money. We all have to make these connections for a reason. You're not just pulling up being like, let's be friends. You're talking about networking, and that does have to do with transaction, right? But realize that that doesn't make it a bad thing, right? You can have different relationships for different purposes, and that's all right. We don't all have to be homies that are going to go to In-N-Out after this, right? Like, it's just not all like that, and that's all right. So recognizing that it's okay to have some relationships that have a specific purpose, and then have friendships that have a different purpose. And sometimes those relationships can morph, and that's okay too. Right? So that's the advice I would give.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, I have something to add about mentorship more than so much networking. I guess it works for networking as well. But being that I started my business in the middle of the pandemic and things are just starting to open up, like I haven't really been able to meet people in person. A lot of my mentorship has been virtual, and a lot of it has actually been people who they haven't even opted into being my mentor. It's just literally through their content that I feel, or like through their podcast. So what I want you all to know is that, yeah, it's great to have mentors that you can, have phone calls with, or maybe meet in person with, or if you, go to a conference, like those face-to-face connections are top notch. They are amazing. However, don't limit yourself just to that. When like a lot of these things are virtual, like connect with other people who are here, like build community with others that are here. And there's people whom I follow on social media, like for example, Jay Shetty. I'm not sure if anyone follows him, but he has a really good podcast called On Purpose. He's like one of my virtual mentors. He doesn't know who I am, but like success leaves behind clues, right? So how can you study the people that you admire? Like the people that you said would be your dream mentors. Like, okay, is there a book written on them? Have they written a book? Like, how can you really start to educate yourself? Because success does leave behind these clues. And then you can also build community. Like most of my friends now, so half of my friends that are also entrepreneurs and coaches, I haven't even met them in real life yet. We're just like Instagram friends, or we'll have like Zoom calls and things like that. So don't limit yourself to just the people in your radius. When I think the beautiful thing that did come out of the pandemic is it made us all closer in a virtual way. Take advantage of that, right? So like take advantage of the people who are here with you, take advantage of like asking us questions right now. Mentorship doesn't have to look like something that's long-term. It can literally, as Sada was just saying, it could be transactional. It can just be like, okay, cool. I asked, Sada or Alex or Martina question on this panel, and like that was mentorship that I got.
I could add something, Martina, if it's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm a big fan of networking, and I actually, I'm really bad at like speaking out like in front of like a ton of people. And pretty early on, when Jacob was, when like the nest was kind of barely taking off, Jacob was like invited me to these events. He's like, "Hey, could you be on this panel for this, for that?" And I always wanted to say no to Jacob because I hate speaking. Like I'm a shy person, and I never said no to him. I was always like a yes. And then after I say yes, I was like I'd be stressing out that whole day. I was like, man, what did I get myself into? But like it was pretty cool because like you'd go to like all these events, and I kind of did it because I was like, they'll give out free food, and I get to speak, so it probably won't be too bad. But Jacob was. My advice would be the digital nest is like such a great place for like networking. Like all their events are usually like filled with people that are like more than excited to like talk to you, like all the nest members. Like it's actually insane like how many positive things like they say about nest members. So I think that's a great place to like network. But also I think something I picked up from Jacob pretty early on, when we'd go to all these events, he'd be like, oh, like follow them on LinkedIn, kind of just send him like a quick message like, hey, this part that you mentioned about was like, I really like made an impact, or it can be anything. And you kind of just reach out to them, and then you kind of form this network. And it's kind of funny because at the time where I was going to all these networking events with Jacob, sometimes I skip class at Cabrillo. And I had a classmate who was like super smart. He's like, why do you keep on like going to all these networking events? Like how's that going to help you? Like it was, and I was like, I wonder like if it is going to help me. And then, I just kept on, building a network. And I think the beautiful thing about a network is that when you create some great relationships, they're able to help you out in the future. So when I was looking for a new job, I literally just texted Jacob, and I was just like, hey, like looking for blah, blah, blah. And he's like, I think you should meet Tom Chavez. He's like, you should message Martine. Message Martine, had an interview the next week for 30 minutes. We just talked about like Warriors, my experience, like what I like to do on my free time, all this stuff. And then a week later, they were like, can you start, next week? And that was all through like connections and like building a network. So I think that's also pretty important. Like when you establish like this network with like people, they're able to help you down the road, like pretty easily to like set you up in like new for job opportunities and stuff like that.
Yes. So we're almost close to time. There's two things that I'm going to add. We're going to go rapid fire, and then we're going to go to Q&A. One thing that I want to make sure that you all leave with is it's something that I've coined, but there's probably an actual name for this, but it's called the secret rooms. And what I mean by the secret rooms is your mentors or the people that are looking out for you, that advocate for you in the rooms that you don't even know exist. What that means is when you connect with someone, try to have an authentic connection with them, tell them, hey, this is where I'm going, this is what I want to do, because it's happened to me so many times where an opportunity has come to me, but I was never in that room. Someone in that room was advocating for me. Someone in that room was pitching me. So always, be the person you want to be. Alex shared a very true story. That's exactly what happened. When Alex messaged me, I was on Vivek's ear and Tom's ear, like, hey, this is who Alex is. When I saw Vivek pass by, when Tom passed by, I was like, this is who Alex is. And just keep reminding it, right? Because you don't want the only interaction to be is that 30-minute interview or that 30-minute conversation. And for a long time, I was like, wait, am I like rigging the system? Is this not what is this unfair to everyone else? But when I realized when I was in those spaces, this happens all the time. There's advocacy happening all the time. It's just that for a lot of us, our network wasn't like, I don't have a Theo that's a CEO. I don't have a Thea that's running her own business. I don't have whoever in those spaces. So when we talk about building community and building those relationships, that's what it's like. So rapid fire question also for building community on the opposite side. This whole journey, it's great and it's amazing, but it's not always linear and it's not always fun. And there's a lot of crying and you want to give up and stuff like that. So I share that with all of you, and as is open for anyone. How have you built a community that has helped you go through, or either or worked on yourself to make sure that you didn't give up, right? I know all of you and your stories, there was multiple times you're like, is this worth it? Do I want it? But then the people around you are the people that helped you through it. And knowing that that's okay. It's okay to feel like having imposter syndrome. It's okay to saying, I don't know what the answer is, but I'm going to do one thing at a time, and just moving the needle forward is good enough. Instead of like, you don't have to know everything. You don't have to be 100% on everything. Just move it slowly. If anyone has any stories about that, if not, I can talk about mine. All right, I'll talk about mine. So with mine, lo que me pasó a mí is after a year of engineering, I hated it. Actually, after a year and a half, I hated it. I was absolutely miserable. I didn't know. I was so involved in my work that I wanted to quit. I was like doing all this work for the company that I was with, but I didn't feel like loved. I didn't feel the purpose there. And it wasn't until I actually told my higher ups, like my CEO and my CTO, saying, hey man, I feel depressed. I'm doing this job that by all intents and purposes is giving me the best life that I could ever live. But it's also the one thing that's like, I feel like it's killing me. Like I feel, and I was ashamed to say that because I'm like, I don't want to open up about my mental health. Like, why would I want to do that? Because what if they're like, wow, Martin can't handle it. And if anything, it was the complete opposite. Now through them, I lean on them now. They're like, hey, Martin, whenever if you ever feel like that, please let us know. Because if you feel like this, we and you feel confident, talking to us, there's so many other people that probably feel the same way, and they don't feel confident coming to us, and they're, feeling miserable, and that's not what we want to do. And I share that with all of you because I know it's really easy to hold everything, to internalize, to not show our failures, but that's the one place that I've learned the most. All of my failures, seeing everyone, learning from that, that's how I've been able to move and be where I am at right now. So just know it gets better. Have people around you that care about you. And you never know what those difficult times, most of my difficult times have led to some of the best experiences in my life. So, all right. Now with all that, let's keep it fun. Let's keep it, So for all of you, what is that dream now? Right? We obviously learned about your childhood dream at the beginning. Where do you see yourself going? What do you see yourself doing? I can lead it off. One of my things that I want to do is I want to create a venture studio. I want to, have 2 or 3 companies that get acquired, and then also have a philanthropic side. Shout out Tom, because if it wasn't for him, that would have been like, oh, that might happen. Now to me, like, oh, no, it's gonna happen. Best believe that's gonna happen. And I don't know what's after that, but I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. And being able to create companies with people that I love, and products that people really, tech for social good. That's kind of where like what I'm leaning for. So that's, and I share these dreams with you all because if it wasn't for someone like the people that are here on this panel, I wouldn't have been comfortable saying that, right? Seeing Erika go from, leaving a job that's stable to, oh my God, I mean, creating this generation of Latina empowered individuals, creating 6-figure businesses on their own. I'm like, oh, this is doable. Seeing Sara come from, I went from education to now I'm going to disrupt the tech industry, bringing everything, her real self, everything from education, everything from social justice issues. I'm like, oh, the tech industry is going to change. And seeing Alex, I'm like, man, this man getting acquired at 21, 22, doing it again. I'm like, oh, now this isn't just like a Steve Jobs story, right? Now for me, my Steve Jobs is going to be Alex. I'm like, oh, Alex did it. Like, I don't have to think of these bunch of white men that have done this, right? Now the people that are in my life that I think of that are amazing are these people that you see on the screen.
Okay, so we're talking about our future, like what our next stream is, right? Okay. Yeah. So I've recently thought about this, so I have it really planned out. So next year, I want to host an in-person conference. I think, as I mentioned, like having that in-person connection is amazing. Like I think I can inspire a lot of people through social media, but what's kind of lacking is them meeting one another. So I want to hold space for that. I think especially in like brown and Black communities where like face-to-face is so important. So, but I want it to be about empowerment. Like, I don't want it. I've been to a few conferences where it's like about influencers and taking photos and it's like, that's fun, but like, let's make impact. Like, let's really show people like what's possible. So a 2-day in-person conference, and then that's going to happen next year. And then my 5-year plan is to write a book. And along that 5-year plan, I would like to have my own app focused on Latina empowerment. So I'm still really fleshing out exactly how that is. I'm not going to lie, I'm a little traumatized from my time in tech and I know how much work it is. So I'm like, all right, let me focus on one thing at a time. Let me get this conference. And I feel like I'm really vetting out the content right now and like really getting to know my ideal client. So once I'm ready to start the app, I will, I think, have a lot of data to support what it is that I want to do. So that is my 5-year plan.
That's awesome. Sara or Alex?
Yeah, so I really want to make some big moves in the next 5 years. I'm planning on being a junior engineer by the end of this year. I'm planning on being mid-level within the next 2 years. And I'm planning on being a manager within the next 3. So that's a big part of my plan. I'm also hoping to move to San Francisco in the next few years. That's a big part of my plan as well. I want to own a condo in San Francisco. And I know that's a big dream, but at least that's a big dream for me. But I'm hoping that that's something that can happen. And yeah, I'm looking at hopefully starting a family too. Like I feel like my dreams are so much because of tech. My dreams within my own like everyday life have gotten so much bigger and so much more realistic. So like they feel more realistic. So yeah, I think those are kind of the big things that I have planned in the next few years.
Awesome. Alex?
Yeah, for me, I kind of just looking forward to like learning more things like in this tech world. I like to, start my own company soon. So I'm kind of just like paying attention to kind of how we work on like the tech side. I work from like a business, like business decision wise, and just do my own thing, make my own company. But I think the thing I look forward to the most is I got to open up that restaurant. So I think that's the thing I'm looking forward to the most.
There we go. Latina owned business. What's up? All right. Awesome. Well, thank you all for being with us. We are at the Q&A part of it. I will go through the chat and see which ones that I missed. Thank you, Erika and Sara, for answering them as well. Let me see. And if anyone has any questions, either feel free to come on mute or say it to us.
There was the imposter syndrome question, right?
Oh, yes. I'm trying to find it. Or if you know how to answer it, then let's do that.
Yeah, I'm happy to
please.
answer it. I can
Yeah.
go first, and then because I'm sure we all want to talk about it because this is so, it's so I think if you're not sure what imposter syndrome is, it essentially means that you feel like a fraud or like people know things that you don't know. Even though there's evidence of you having success, you still feel this immense self-doubt. So that's what imposter syndrome is. And as a business owner and as an entrepreneur, and even when I was in tech, I will tell you that imposter syndrome is not something you overcome once and it never comes back. There's a term in coaching that's new levels, new devils, or like the top of one mountain is the bottom of the next, right? So there's always something new to learn, always like new places to grow. And this idea that we're just going to get over imposter syndrome and it's never going to come back, that's just unrealistic, because as you level up, you're going to be in bigger rooms. You're going to be, like we think, oh, once I become a manager, then, I'm not going to worry about imposter syndrome. No, that's when you're going to feel the most imposter syndrome. So what I help my clients with is the mindset about, how can you acknowledge the negative thought or the unhelpful thought that you're having and challenge that thought? So maybe you're saying something to yourself of like, I'm not good enough to be in tech. Is that true? And then you yourself know that that's not true, right? It's literally just, it's much easier to have a negative thought than it is to have a positive thought, because that's what helped us survive when we lived out in the wilderness and we could be consumed by something, right? Like if something is out in the bushes, you're not going to be like, oh, a butterfly is on the other side. No, you're going to be like, what is that? Like, am I safe? It's literally survival to have a negative thought. So when it comes to imposter syndrome or feeling like you don't belong somewhere, really challenging your own thinking about it, because while the imposter syndrome will keep coming back as you get into bigger rooms, what you will get better at is overcoming it faster. So, like if you think about like a car analogy, who are you letting drive the car? Are you letting your self-doubt or imposter syndrome drive the car? Or are you going to let the courage drive the car? Because courage means that you're afraid, but you do that anyways. Courage doesn't mean fearlessness. Courage means like, tengo miedo, but I'm going to go for it. Courage is what Alex said, like saying yes to being on these things and then, figuring out how he was going to do it, even though he's like more of an introvert. So I would say like courage is what combats imposter syndrome. And I've never said that before. Courage is what combats imposter syndrome. It doesn't mean you don't have the fear anymore, but it means you show up anyways.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And to add to what Erika was saying was even, I think we all kind of feel this at the beginning. I remember when I first started my engineering journey, I had super imposter syndrome because when I was in SF, this is when it was open. I remember that individuals would challenge me because I didn't have a degree and I was brown and I was Latino, and they're like, how did you get a software engineering job and why can't I get one? And to me, I listened to them. I was like, I mean, I don't know, maybe you're right. I don't know why I did get this job. But now it's funny being in the tech space now, doing stuff and not knowing is celebrated, right? That's where innovation lies. The thing between knowing what you know, knowing what you don't know. And if you can find that, wow, this is something that we know, that's something that thrives in technology. So that's something that I apply to my life. I'm like, you know what? Do I know this? No. Am I scared of it? Yeah. Okay. I'm probably going to do it. And the other thing that how I got over it is, I don't think Jacob knows this. Jacob knows this, but I'm going to tell him, is for a long time until I actually got into the tech space, that's when that imposter kind of thing was coming into my mind. Up until I got my job, I knew, I was confident. I was like, I can do this. Well, knowing that I couldn't do it at all. But just because he instilled that in my head saying, you can do this, that's all that I needed to know. And it's funny, as I was going through my career in tech, it all kind of started going slower and slower. But then I had people in my life saying, Martin, you can do this. Look, the thing you just built, it got a client. The thing you just did, it helped this person. And that's what I tell to all of you. So if you need one person in your life, if you haven't found that person, take it from all of us. We believe in you. We know that we hope that the dreams that you had before, boom, get exploded. We hope that you all, it's not a competition, but my biggest goal and what I hope that y'all take away from this is that you're like, that crazy dream that you thought of can become a reality. And, you all become the next innovators, the next business owners, the next people that lead with love and courage, that'll really change and shape the world. As most of us know, there's a couple things going on in our government. They're saying, trying to take away some rights, but we hope that, you all through us and, listening to our stories can be the change makers we want to see in the world. Let me see if there's any other ones. If anyone wants to talk about imposter syndrome, I'll keep looking through the chat.
Yeah. I would say that I deeply agree with what both Erika and Martine has said. Like, be afraid and then do it anyway, right? Because fear will lie to you. I would also say that, similar to what Martine said, my husband actually always tells me this thing that gets stuck in my head, is that you don't have to believe in yourself. It's okay if you don't believe in yourself, but believe in the people who believe in you, right? So if you have a bunch of people behind you being like, yeah, you got this, you can do this, believe in those people. You don't have to believe in you, but believe in the people who love you and believe in you.
Yes. Cool. I see another one. It says, if you're a college student and are dependent on your parents and you feel that you owe it to them to not let them down, how do you learn to stand up for yourself? Oof. This is for anyone.
Yeah, I actually think I answered this question in a DM, but like in a direct in the chat, but I think it's going to be helpful for other people as well. So this comes up a lot with my clients because most of the people I coach are women that are first generation, a lot of times the eldest in their family. So, and their parents are immigrants, right? So it's like, okay, well, my parents came all this way, have worked this super labor intensive job for me to have the opportunity to go to school. And like, don't I owe it to them to go like find a stable job? And look, I think everyone here cares a lot about the sacrifices that their parents made in order for them to have the life that they have. Like, I think we all get that, right? And sometimes we think that we should choose the route that they want for us in order to make them happy. But if we really think about it, we have to choose what's in alignment for us, because if our parents work so hard for us to have the American dream, we should be able to have our version of the American dream. Because if we are living in alignment and we are living our purpose, we are going to also just be happier individuals. We're going to be able to be better people to our kids and to our parents. And, if they went through all that struggle, why not become the best version of yourself rather than the version somebody else wants you to become? So for this, it's like those two things don't have to be different. You can appreciate your parents' sacrifices and follow your dreams, right? It comes down to clearly communicating and understanding that reference of the vision, right? Like maybe they don't get it, but how can you have compassion? Why is it that they don't get it? So it's like, be compassionate, but still follow what it is that's calling you. I'm not saying go be disrespectful and be like, F you, I'm out of here. Like, no, that's not what we want at all. But how can you acknowledge the sacrifices that they've made and still follow what it is that you want to do? Because remember, my mom thought I was crazy and now she's my biggest advocate. Right. So sometimes it's like you have to trust yourself, and to Sada's point, you have to trust the people who like believe in you too.
Yep. This question for sure hits home to me. So I'm the oldest, and and everything that Erika said, it was like, oh, yes. I'll share a story about when I was going to go to UCLA. So like I mentioned, I went to community college. I was going to transfer to UCLA. I was going to do Chicano studies, and education is really important to me. But when I had the opportunity between going to UCLA and pursuing this engineering thing, everyone thought I was crazy when I said I'm gonna choose an engineering thing, because I knew that I was like, I believe in myself. I believe in what I can do. I'm choosing the unsafe route of betting on myself, and everyone around me thought I was crazy. They're like, Martin, what are you doing? You could go to UCLA, you can get a degree, and then, and my goal at the time was to be a teacher. And even my parents were the same way. What I learned through that experience was that experience allowed me to have really, really deep conversations with my parents about how they see me as a son and how I want to show up for them as a son. We were able to talk about, do you expect me to take care of you when you're older? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, well, that's news to me. Didn't know that. Do you expect me to help, manage stuff in your life when you're older? And they're like, yes. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And I was like, then how do you expect me to live your life if you tell me to take advantage of everything that I can when I'm, we're doing this? And it kind of dawned on them like, wow, like we're limiting you. We're not allowing you to live. And as of now, we have a great relationship, and I'm so happy that that happened because we were able to talk about it, and now I can support them way beyond what I could have as in academia. right? Like I help my parents with their medical bills. Like I have time. Like if I wanted to, I could go work at their house. I can work from wherever. But if I went the other way and I listened to them, I couldn't have been as big as the support that they wanted me to do. And now they're like, wow, like, we're really glad we had that conversation, because if that wouldn't have happened. So this question for Alex. All right, Alex, do you have an idea of the type of company you want to start? It's also okay if it's top secret.
I don't. Definitely something in software. But I feel like I'm still putting like the pieces together. On like each time I like learn something, I'm like, okay, this is kind of cool. So I have like a list of a couple ideas, but nothing that I'm like super set on yet.
Well, whenever you're getting the fun, let me know.
I'll leak news to Jimena first, and then
hire us. This is another question. I think this might be the last one. What is one skill you knew you needed to build for your career, but was really challenging to work on? What did you do to push yourself out of your comfort zone? I mean, I guess that's a lot of hindsight, right? But anyone want to take a shot at this?
Yeah, I have one. Had to learn how to code, which was insane. So, I mean, for anyone who has never coded before, coding will just mess with your brain and will make you feel really, really dumb, especially when you're first starting out. So I had to continue pushing through, feeling like really curious, but also feeling like I was just completely out of my depth for months, and still feeling like it sometimes. Like I still get into problems and I'm like, oh man, what am I doing in engineering? So, you just have to keep going. Like you have to just keep telling yourself, okay, like this is a temporary feeling. This feeling is temporary. I'm going to feel like this for a few minutes. It'll go away. I'll solve this problem and we'll get through it. And it's going to happen again. Right. So just continuing to push through that, feelings of doubt, feelings of discomfort, and realizing that what's on the other side is so much more beautiful than you could even think of. Right. So that kind of helps me when I start getting frustrated with learning how to code. I just think about all the things that are on the other side of this problem, on the other side of this app, on the other side of whatever I'm working on, right?
I think to kind of just go off what Sarah said, because I agree with her. That was like the one skill. You also have to be like patient. Like it's not something that's gonna come like quick. Like to be good at something, like you have to like do it over and over and over again. Like I played basketball growing up and I could like dribble a ball with my eyes closed with one hand with like, one finger, because I did it every single day, like growing up. So with coding, like the thing that I got into it was I started to code and then I was just like, wow, it's been a month. Like, how come I don't get it? And like, you look back at it and I've been doing it for a while and it's just like, everything makes sense, but it's because I've been doing it for so long now that, I actually know how things are working, but like, you just got to like keep on doing it. Like, be patient with it. It just takes time, but that's also another skill.
Awesome. I know we're at time and I'm posting everyone's LinkedIn right now. Though one thing I will add to that question is I learned how to leverage the skills that I already knew. So meaning like the hard work ethic that I learned picking berries, the skill set of my mom being this like amazing resourcefulness person. I've told her, I'm like, Mom, I don't know I know you don't know what this is, but you'd be a great solutions engineer because you can find the solution to anything. You'll call whoever you need to call. You'll be on the phone and be like, I don't know, but I need someone to help me. And you will make that happen. So I've learned how to leverage my upbringing of the scrappiness of my mom, the hardworking of my dad, where before I was a little shyful of bringing that in. I was like, oh, I'm shyful that my mom can legit get a service for free. Just because she knows how to talk to people. Like she knows like, hey, I bet if I call this number, they'll help me. And it happens. You'd be surprised how many times I've used the skills that my mom has taught me in building products, in building a company, in building relationships, and not, shying away from them, but really owning them. Everything that I learned from making videos to public speaking, how it all plays a role, and not shying away from that. Bueno, con eso, I'm getting the flag. So I want to thank all of you for being here. Erika, Sara, and Alex, you all are absolutely amazing. And same thing for all of you that are here watching us virtually, either now or in the future. We'll put all of our LinkedIn's in the chat. Feel free to connect with us, and just know that we chose to be here. We want to be here. We believe in all of you. We believe in the mission that we're doing, and go be amazing. Go be awesome.